Welcome to this session on postgraduate research opportunities and PhDs from the College of Medical Veterinary and Life Sciences at the University of Glasgow. I'm Professor Stuart Nicklin, and I'm the Dean of Postgraduate Research in the Graduate School. And I'm here with my colleagues, Leslie Dilling and Danielle Higgins, and also one of our current students, Martha Luca, who will chat to you in a while as well. So we're going to kick off and hopefully give you some information about PhDs in the college, and there'll be also an opportunity for you to ask any questions or queries that you have, and you can there'll be an opportunity to do that at the end. You can also put them in the chat as we go along, and we'll answer them as they pop up in the chat as well. Okay, so let's make a start. Okay, so in general, I'm just going to talk you through some background information about the things to think about and the kind of information you need while you're considering PhD opportunities. So the first thing is just to highlight the different types of degrees the college offers and the duration of study for them. So our standard PhDs in the college, so this is a research degree, are PhDs which are 3 to 4 years in length for full-time study. So this is a minimum period of 36 months of research. And at the end of that 36-month period, if you've written up your thesis, you're able to submit at that point. But otherwise, the university regulations allow you a further 12 months period in order to write up and submit your thesis. That takes it to full-time to a full-time period of 4 years. If you're taking a PhD part-time, then we offer those degrees for the research period for up to 5 years, and then up to 8 years for the final submission of your thesis. We also offer an alternative model for the PhD called the integrated PhD, and this is a 5-year full-time model. And I won't talk any more about this model of study at the moment, because I've got a slide on it a little bit later in the presentation, which will tell you more about what this degree structure looks like. And then we also offer Masters by Research degrees. So these are a shorter version, an opportunity to do a shorter research project and leave with a postgraduate research degree from the University of Glasgow. And these are 1-year full-time degrees with a year to write up, or 2 years part-time degrees. So there's a range of different postgraduate research degrees that the college offers that you can think about when you're considering your application. What do you need to do when you're thinking about an application for a postgraduate research degree to our college? So the first thing is think about the kind of area you want to do research in, and link to that, therefore, potential supervisors. And there is a search function on the university webpage and through the graduate school, which allows you to search within topics to identify potential supervisors. Also, amongst our college webpage, there are individual web pages for each of our disciplinary schools that offer the different research areas in the college. And within those school web pages, you can find out much more information about the types of research that's been going on in the schools, and the individual supervisors and their academic profile pages, so you can find out more about what people are doing. And this would be the first step to think about: is there a topic of research going on that you're interested in, and who are the people that you would want to speak to find out more about potential PhDs in different disciplinary research groups. In order to make an application to the university, there's a number of different documents you need. So you're going to need copies of your degree transcripts and your degree certificates. You're going to need to provide 2 contacts for references. So these would be previous academic supervisors or previous universities, employers that can provide a reference for you. And depending on the nature of the research and discipline you're writing to, you may need a research proposal. That's not always the case. If it's a funded PhD, for example, where the project's being offered, the research proposal will already have been written. And often potential PhD supervisors will be able to directly discuss research projects with you and ideas that might mean that while you don't need a full research proposal, you do need just an idea of an area of research you want to study. And then finally, of course, you're going to need a CV, a clearly structured and concise CV that outlines your academic achievements, your broader experience, for example, any research internships you might have taken, any relevant employment you may have taken, prizes, for example, you may have won during different degrees, and just a CV that's concise and clear and lays out all the relevant background information for your application. So how might you choose your research topic? I mean, the first obvious thing is it's got to be something that's really interesting to you. So it's got to be something that you know is going to excite you to work on, and it's going to be something that is of interest for you to focus on for the next few years of your education. PhD research is a long degree. It's a degree where you'll work very much independently and with self-directed learning. It's really important that you carefully pick the topic and area that you want to research in, because it wants to be a topic you're enthusiastic about. It wants to be a topic that you really want to lead research into, and it needs to be a topic that keeps you enthusiastic and interested throughout the full 3-year period while you're doing the research. You also want to think about what are the new questions and areas that you might want to research in this area, because the whole aim, obviously, doing a PhD is that you're the new discoverer. So you're going to drive research forward in an area, and you're going to make new discoveries, and those discoveries you make during your PhD will drive you in new directions to make other new discoveries. So it's really important to think very carefully about this topic and what kind of research you're going to do. And that's where potential PhD supervisors can also help you, because they'll obviously already have active research groups working in potential areas of interest for you. So they can really help you with discussions and thinking about what you might want to research for your PhD. And then the final thing to think about is also your future goals. So, you may not have made your final decisions on your career. You may have some idea. You may be thinking, I want an academic research career. You may be thinking, I'm going to do a PhD and I want to go into industry research area, or you may have an idea for a different type of career. But obviously, your future goals and what you aim to do in the future should also be an important consideration when you're thinking about what you might want to research during the PhD, because the PhD is ultimately going to give you that expertise and academic knowledge that you take forward into the future to the next stages of your career. Okay, so a bit of sort of background, official information on what the requirements are in order to study for a PhD in our college. So the general entry requirements are you need to have a 2-1, so an upper second class honours degree or equivalent from your home university. So this is your bachelor's degree. And you have to, if required, have passed your English language tests. And you need to have an average of 6.5 in those scores, with none of the subtests being below 6. So this is the minimum entry requirements. We do see many students coming in with higher bachelor's honours degrees up to the first class or the equivalent. And we also see many students coming in who have done both a bachelor's degree and a taught master's degree before they arrive to do a PhD. So while these are the minimum, there are students come in with a whole range of qualifications, and equally, if you're applying to funded programs, then you may be competing with students with a whole range of qualifications and experiences. So English language requirements are required generally where English has been learnt as a second language. There are some countries from which we do not require English language tests to be taken. And these are detailed on the university websites and essentially summarized in this slide. So you can see this range of countries here, and I won't read all through them all because this information is available on the website. If you studied in Canada, you're still required to provide evidence of English language ability, because of course there are some provinces of Canada where French is the first language. Another requirement that is sometimes needed for PhDs in MVLS is the bench fee. So if you're applying for a PhD, you might find that your offer letter dictates your tuition fees and separately a bench fee. And this depends on the nature of the research project, but essentially the bench fee is the overall expenses and costs that are required to do the actual research. So this might be typically where you're doing a wet lab type research project, or where it's a data type project, and there's a requirement for costs to meet the access of the data, analysis of data, etc. These can, of course, be discussed with supervisors when you're discussing PhD opportunities, and they should be able to give you an indication of what these likely costs are, and they will always be then stated in your official offer letter from the university when your application has been processed and accepted. I said at the beginning of the talk that I would mention the integrated PhD in a little more detail. So this model of a PhD has been devised to allow students to come and study under one postgraduate research visa, achieve a PhD, but also gain the opportunity to increase their subject-specific knowledge by taking the taught components of one of our postgraduate taught master's degrees. So essentially, this is an annual project call for applicants, which runs between November and April. And during this time, PhD projects that have been proposed by supervisors across the college will be advertised. They're advertised on the graduate school funding opportunities page, and also find a PhD. And importantly, these projects are offered as integrated PhDs because the supervisors will also have selected one or more of our taught master's degrees whose content and academic timetable matches with the research area of the PhD. So the students would apply to the PhD project. This would open up an opportunity to select a relevant master's degree. And if they're successful in applying for this scheme, the student would then secure their funding in order to undertake this degree. And this would essentially mean that the student arrives and would study in a 1 year plus 3 years plus 1 year format. So in the first year of study, they will take the taught courses of the master's degree, so 120 credits. And following successful completion of the assessments for those taught credits, with a GPA which reaches 15 or the merit level in the University of Glasgow, that would qualify the students to go directly on to study for the PhD for the following 3 years. They would then, within years 2 to 4, enter the active research period of their PhD. And then at the end of the 36-month period of the PhD, they would again have the final 12 months maximum time to write up and submit their thesis. So this is a new offering. And as I said, it offers the flexibility to come and join the university for a postgraduate research degree, but also benefit from increasing your subject-specific knowledge in the university linked to taking the taught master's credits. So it's a new way of doing a PhD that you can combine with some taught knowledge. We also recognize that when our students arrive at the university, you may have already taken a bachelor's degree and you may have already taken a taught master's degree, but the PhD isn't the end of your training and education journey. Of course, during the PhD, you're going to become an expert in your research area. And that's what your supervisors are going to guide you to and what you're going to train in terms of the disciplinary research as you're undertaking that research, generating data and analyzing the results. But framed around that, we also recognize that students want to still benefit from broader training skills. So we offer a PhD training program that aligns with the years of the PhD, and it offers flexibility for students to take training that suits their development needs alongside doing their PhD research. So there are some mandatory training options as part of this program. So this includes, for example, research integrity training, data management training. So areas that really all researchers need to understand in the modern era in order to be able to be successful researchers during their PhD. But it also offers a range of optional courses that students can select after discussion with their supervisor and match them to the needs they have for their PhD. So some of those courses might be linked directly to research. So for example, training in statistics, bioinformatics, training in research, other research skills that might be relevant to the PhD. But we also offer a whole range of training courses that are much broader skills that might benefit you for the future. So these can include presentation skills, project management and leadership skills, public engagement, so talking to the public about your research. So there's a whole range of other training courses that you can look at to pick and take them alongside your PhD. And importantly, these aren't like taught masters courses, but they vary between sort of an hour to 2 hours of training in a course up to maybe half a day to a day, depending on the different nature of the training you pick. So this really just gives you an opportunity to build on your skills during your PhD, so that when you leave the university, as well as the PhD degree, you'll get a transcript showing the range of other training courses you took during the degree. And just showing you a little bit more detail of this, you can see that it's quite structured. This is just a screenshot of the web page in the graduate school. And this shows you how these training courses are split up into different domains of skills that match to the requirements for developing and training as a postgraduate researcher. And under each of these headings are a range of courses that you can look at and choose that match where you are in your PhD and the skills that you want to develop as you go forward and get more experience. We obviously welcome applications from students holding scholarships or who wish to fund their PhDs while they're at the University of Glasgow. We also there are a range of funded studentships and funded schemes in the college, all of which have their own requirements, guidelines, and eligibility. This is just really a list of them here, and I won't go through them all in detail, but it's really just to highlight that these are all funded PhD programs. They will tend to have an annual call for applicants, which maybe opens at approximately the end of October, and applications are then welcomed usually through until approximately the end of January. And these opportunities are advertised on the graduate school webpage, along with the eligibility for applicants to apply for them as well. So you can fully read whether there are any residence requirements, whether there are any eligibility requirements, and you'll see the opening and closing dates for these funded studentships on the graduate school webpage, as well as on broader PhD advertising, such as Find a PhD. So this is just to highlight that these are other opportunities you can look out for. That will be PhD opportunities linked to all the different disciplines of medical research and life sciences research the college offers for you to look out for while you're exploring opportunities. Okay, finally, just to emphasize, it's great you joined us today. The University of Glasgow is a top 100 university in the world. We are first in a number of subjects at undergraduate level, and we're proud of the fact that our degrees are taught by our active researchers. Our postgraduate researchers contribute to the world-leading research we do, and everything we do in this college together as a community is what really builds the reputation of our college within the University of Glasgow, and continues to offer a fantastically competitive research experience for potential students who want to come and do a postgraduate research degree. Okay, I'm going to finish there. I'll say thank you on my behalf, but I'm firstly going to pass over to Leslie Dinning, who will talk a little bit more about the graduate school and the college. Thank you, Leslie.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. I will just share my screen now. hopefully you can all see my screen now.
Yeah, it's just not on slideshow yet.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of difficulty with it, so I think I'm going to have to kind of leave it as it is. But
That's
hopefully
okay.
you
It's
can
clear,
kind of
Leslie.
see
So
everything
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you for coming along today and expressing an interest in our college and Glasgow University. I'm here to represent the PGR team within the graduate school today, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about what we do and in the graduate school, what we can offer for our students, and yeah, just have a little chat about that. So as you'll see on the first slide here, we have a very large and diverse student community within the university. The graduate school is a really extremely exciting and stimulating, diverse environment to work in and study. As you will see, we're ranked as in the top 20 universities for graduate employability. And there's lots of opportunities for you or for our students to join clubs and societies, as well as study abroad opportunities and attending international conferences. So the role of the graduate school. So what is our actual role? So it's really important that we provide a quality provision for postgraduate education. We provide a forum for students across the college to meet at lectures and social events. We provide professional skills development programme, which Professor Nicklin has alluded to in his presentation. And this really helps you develop your skills that you're going to need to become an independent and successful researcher. It also will help you to prepare for your career, whether that's going to be inside or outside of academia. And it really is a really very vibrant research environment across the world. We have researchers from all over the world. We work in partnership with many universities. So what do we actually do? So the first thing really that we do is from when students start is you will have an induction. And it's our responsibility to make sure that all new students who come into the college are provided with an induction. We do this in partnership with our colleagues across the college and with other colleagues in our central research and innovation team. These events take place twice a year in October and January. And they're a really good introduction to not only the college and the fundamentals of starting your life as a student at the university, but they're a really good opportunity for you to meet with your peers. We have a lot of information, and I would really encourage anyone who is interested in being a student or applying to Glasgow to have a look at our web pages. We've done a lot of work in providing the information that we think that any prospective student will need. And this is just an example of one of our web pages. It does say here that the next induction event is January, but in fact, it's actually going to be October when we welcome our new cohort of students. So we're also very much involved in professional skills training, and that's one of our major roles. It's really important that all our students gain a really broad range of skills to equip them for a future career. Employers really value these skills, and we would encourage students to invest time in strengthening their professional development. Last year, we were really excited to launch a brand new graduate skills pathway, and that provides students with a wide range of core skills, depending on what stage of their career that they're at. And this is the information here. We have a lot of information on this pathway. And again, it's really useful to have a look at that. It's a huge range of different courses that you can engage with. And we do work very closely with our colleagues in the Research and Innovation Office in developing new courses every year. So the next thing is annual progression. That's a key aspect of the graduate school's role. We have to manage annual progression to ensure that every student undergoes an annual review. It's really important at that point in the year for all PGR students to progress and have that review. It really is an opportunity for students to discuss all aspects of their training, their milestones, and it allows you to receive feedback on your own personal development, your performance. It also gives you some time to self-reflect on the challenges that you may have had over the previous 12 months and how you're going to mitigate for those. It's a key point in the year when there's a recommendation made on whether students can continue into the next year of study. And students work very much in tandem with their supervisors on annual progression. We in the graduate school work with our colleagues in the schools to ensure that the progression is a smooth process as it can be. Then we actually have, again, a lot of information on our webpage, and you'll see this just gives a little snapshot of the webpage here. So then the all-important, your thesis and your viva. So the graduate school works with students and supervisors to ensure that your thesis is completed on time, which is extremely important. Where there's a need for an extension or a suspension due to circumstances in your studies, we will talk with you. We'll talk with your supervisor. We'll talk with your postgraduate convener to help to facilitate this. We also work with colleagues across the college to ensure that vivas, which is really the time when the student defends their thesis and has the opportunity to discuss their project with an examination panel, is undertaken in a timely manner. And again, there's a lot of information on our webpage on all sorts of information about planning timelines for your thesis, what you need to do, so that you're really well prepared for that. And really the last thing that I'm going to speak about is supervisor training. So it's part of the graduate school's role to ensure that we have a well-trained supervisory community, and it's our responsibility to provide resources to our PGR supervisors to be able to teach them on the fundamentals of being a supervisor, to whether it be a PhD or a master's student. Should you come to Glasgow, the relationship that you have with your supervisor or your supervisory team is critical to your research project, but also your future goals. And it's really important that we have that core, well-trained supervisory community. And lastly, we also, within the graduate school, we monitor and maintain policies and procedures at the university relating to all aspects of postgraduate research. We ensure that students and the academic community are kept informed of best practice within the sector and what are the most up-to-date procedures. We also have dedicated members within our team, within the graduate school, who work with the central admissions team and finance teams. So if you have any issues with submitting your application or you have any financial questions, we can triage you to the relevant members of the team. So once again, I'd really like to thank you for joining us at this event and expressing an interest in coming to Glasgow. We hope that we will meet you at some point once you have decided to come here and submitted your application. And finally, this isn't your only opportunity to ask us any questions. On this slide here, we do have a central mailbox. If you have any questions, please feel free to pop that into our mailbox, and one of our team will get back to you. Okay, so thank you again, and I'm going to now pass you over to Martha, who will have a chat with you about the student experience.
Thank you, Leslie.
Sorry, I will just stop.
Okay.
Hopefully I've stopped sharing now.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have, I won't be sharing slides, just having a brief chat about my experience as a PhD student at Glasgow. So the application process, how I found my project, and basically how the experience has been so far. So a brief introduction. My name is Martha Luca. I'm a second-year PhD student at the School of Biodiversity, One Health and Veterinary Medicine, which is within the larger college of MVLS. And I am funded by the Wellcome Trust Integrative Infection Biology Program, which is one of the funding opportunities that Stuart has shown on his slides. So how I found the application process basically was, it was quite straightforward, where I had to make, one document, which is basically applying to the university, and as a separate document to the funding program. And then after that, they communicated that, I had been shortlisted, and we did the interviews and we received the response in a matter of days, if not a week or something. So I found that quite straightforward. There were no hidden corners or too many. The instructions are quite clear on the website. And for my case, I did not need to develop a proposal before applying, because I was applying to a funded program where the supervisors had already listed some of the potential projects. And so how I found my project was that, so within the scholarship website, which is integrated within the university, the integrative infection biology was a list of many abstracts that the supervisors had submitted. And what one needed to do is so once you're once you're selected to the program, is go through the projects and then identify your top several projects and have a chat with these supervisors. And then my program is structured in a way that for the first 6 months, we did rotations in different labs. And what this entails is basically, so you have a mini project that will resemble your PhD project with a given supervisor, and you do that for about 2 to 3 months. And that sort of gives you an experience of how will this then look like if I'm doing it for a longer time. How does working with this person feel like? How do I fit well into this research group? And I found that quite very, very helpful, because I remember telling myself I want to try something slightly outside my comfort zone, but still within my interest. And I was able to enjoy some very interesting projects. So that's how I found my project, and I was able to do the mini project and report. So after my rotation project, I now came back and reviewed and was like, well, I liked this about this project and this about this project. And then I was able to identify one, which then I did as my main, which I am still currently doing as my PhD project. So for the funding, as I mentioned, I am within the Wellcome Trust Integrative Infection Biology program, and which I am very happy with, because it's a very generous program. So they fund the fees, the travel, training costs, as well as any other research associated costs. And it's so generally, I am in a situation where I don't find myself too stressed about the money because I am well funded to be able to do what I need to do to take my research to the next step. And so on extracurricular activities, maybe there's lots of stuff to do once you're in Glasgow or at the University of Glasgow. One particular thing I like to participate in, so within the school I am in, is something we have called the Friday Fox. So every Friday, we do have a meetup at the museum where everyone in the department, students, staff, and anyone else who's welcome really just comes in and you can chat over a drink. There is karaoke once a month. So it's very, it enables you to meet someone else that you would not have met on your day-to-day work because maybe your paths are not crossing, but still within the department. So that has helped me like broaden my network within the school and college in general, as well as, just meet people that you can hang out with over the weekend. And also it's Glasgow, so once in a while we do go out hiking, to places like Loch Lomond or other places when the weather permits. So overall, it's been a very positive experience in Glasgow. The weather, as everyone knows, sometimes can be very cold, but the people I find it is a very social town and people are very warm, and there is lots of cultural diversity at Glasgow. So it's always, it has a way of making you feel right at home. And that's overall been my experience, but I'm happy to, if someone has any questions about any particular aspects of my experience, I'm happy to answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Martha, for giving that great summary of your experience as a PhD student, and I'm glad you're really enjoying it. Okay, Daniel, am I handing over to you, or?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we have had a couple of questions in the chat so far, and I have answered them, but just wondered if anybody else had an opinion. When do you think is the best time for students to apply for their PhD programme? If they're going to be starting their MSc this year in September, when do you recommend they start applying for their PhD?
Okay, so I think that you can start looking and thinking about applying right from when you start. You'll also have an opportunity during your taught master's degree, obviously, to get to know more of the academic staff as potential PhD supervisors, either through them teaching you or interactions, attending lectures, for example, or if you're undertaking some kind of research project, like a dissertation project as part of your master's degree. So I would say start looking and thinking about applying as soon as you start. There's lots of resources on the webpage for you to identify potential supervisors and areas of interest. But also you'll have the advantage, if you're here doing a taught masters, to get to know staff much more as they're teaching you as well.
Thanks, Stu. We did have another question that did come in asking about searching for a supervisor. Is this mandatory? Does everybody have to search for a supervisor and reach out to them prior to their application or during their application?
So it's not mandatory. We would recommend it because what that gives you is an opportunity to really, as I said in my presentation, identify the areas you want to work in, identify potential supervisors that work in that area, and then you can directly make contact with them and have a chat with them about potential opportunities they may have coming up for PhDs, get their thoughts and ideas of what projects are there, share your CV and have a more informal conversation with them before you make your application. And that then means you will hopefully have an agreement when you make your application that you can name a supervisor when you're applying through the university system.
I would also say that we have colleagues in the graduate school that can help with that process to identify a suitable supervisor. So it's, we would encourage any applicants to make contact with us in the graduate school, because we do have staff that are dedicated in working in that area, so they can definitely help.
That's great, thank you very much. And also, just in case people haven't noticed yet, Leslie has posted the MBLS Graduate School email in the chat. So if you do have any questions about that and want to reach out, please do so. We are having quite a few questions come into the chat, so I will start from the top. Are there any teaching assistant or temporary teaching opportunities for postgraduate students within MBLS?
So there are opportunities to gain experience of teaching while you're undertaking a PhD, and that can either be done, for example, as a graduate teaching assistant type role. Often, for example, if you're doing a wet lab type project, people get involved with demonstrating as well in labs. So there are opportunities, and it's actually part of the options in the PhD training program. What I would say is, what we tend to say to students is, it's something to discuss with your supervisors. It's really important you balance teaching opportunities you might take with progressing your research degree, and your supervisors are usually a good point of contact to discuss those opportunities and the timing of when you took it up during your PhD.
Excellent, thank you. Hopefully that answers that question. We have had a question in, what's the admissions rate for MS degree holders with an age for a PhD programme? I'm not sure if we know the answer to that for the admissions rate. We process all applications. I don't know if you're curious as to if there are other students your age who are applying, but I'm sure they are. Our MBLS cohort is very diverse. Stuart, I don't know if you have anything to say about the diversity on our programme, of the demographics of current students.
Yeah, I think you're right, Daniel. I wouldn't know the rates off the top of my head, but what I would say is that all applications are considered equally. So we would look at your skills, qualifications. We have students from a hugely diverse range of backgrounds in terms of qualifications, work experiences, ages, and where they are in the world. So, you know, having a diverse community of postgraduate research students only improves the environment and the community that's in the college. So I would just say I would encourage you to apply.
Yeah, we do have students from a huge age range. We do have some students who are you know, in their 60s and 70s, you know, so that there's a really diverse student community across the college.
Great, thank you. There's a question that's been popped in about funding opportunities, so I will post the link in the chat for everybody to access that, and you can have a search on our web pages. There's another question about the entry requirements, asking if it's strictly a 2-1 upper or a first, and will less be considered with other qualifications?
Okay, so they're generally the entry requirements, so that we can, because we need to ensure and be confident that students can cope with the demands of doing a postgraduate research degree. But we will look at other experiences and qualifications that might counterbalance a less traditional route of entry for qualifications. And I don't know whether maybe Leslie has anything else to add to that. This was the question about 2-1. Sorry, Danielle, I think you froze for a second. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is the general entry requirement. Yeah, I mean, there are other opportunities where perhaps the student has other types of experience, and we would certainly look at applications and that on a sort of case-by-case basis. So yeah, most applications that would be the minimum entry requirement. But if an applicant felt that they had other experience or other qualifications, we would most definitely look at them.
Excellent, thank you. We have a student question that's came in asking, they're saying that they're a postgraduate taught student just now. When can they start applying for a PhD? So the answer to that was as soon as possible. If you're already a current student, you can start searching our web pages, looking for a supervisor, finding what program you're interested in and what projects are currently available as well. So we encourage you to do so as soon as possible. Another student has asked, would there be any opportunities as a master's student to help out in a professor's lab to get a better understanding of how they work?
I'm happy to start the answering of that one. So, I mean, that is exactly what the research dissertation project period is in a taught master's degree here. That will be an opportunity to go and join, depending on the degree, but it will be to go and work with a academic member of staff and work as part of their research team and work on a research project that's linked to what they do. And that is a third of your taught master's degree. So you'll do 2 semesters of taught courses. And then your third semester from May till September working on your research dissertation in an academic staff member's laboratory.
We have another question in. What does a successful application look like? Martha, I don't know if you want to answer this one as well and give some personal experience on what do you think a successful application would look like? What can people incorporate into it to make them stand out a little bit more or to make that application more successful?
Okay, so what I would say went into my application was highlighting, of course, one is your academic excellence. So you want to show if, you know, your grades, your 2.1, your first class, you want to show if you've done a master's and you're applying for a PhD, maybe talk about the kind of research project you did for your dissertation. Or maybe if you've worked as a research assistant in a lab somewhere and you have a publication, even if you're not the first author, you want to show that. So not just about saying, I can do this, but kind of highlight how you've done it or any outputs, any potential outputs that come from just saying, from saying, I have presented in conferences, this conference, I have made a poster maybe. So I'd say, clearly highlighting your skills is a key factor to your application. And maybe now for the people who maybe Stuart, who's maybe has had the opportunity to sit in a panel and grade different applications, can say something else.
Thanks, Martha.
Yeah.
No, I think that was a really good summary. If you're on the other side of it on a panel, those are exactly the kind of things we're looking for when we're reviewing applications. And also you want to see that enthusiasm come across in an interview. So the real strong interest in the topic, why you want to do that PhD research area. And if you're applying into a funded program, also why you want to be a member of that program, because often in the funded programs there's a group of students and they're working maybe on a diversity of projects in different labs. So you want to be able to show really that enthusiasm that's for the research project, the program, the college, why you might want to come to the University of Glasgow, and get across all these views very, very clearly to the interview panel.
That's great, thank you both. Someone has asked, do you have to find a supervisor before you submit your application?
Okay, I think we answered that one already. So it's strongly encouraged because it will give the opportunity to directly contact supervisors and maybe discuss potential for projects with them, current areas of research. So you can have a more informal chat and throw your enthusiasm, your interest in working with them. But it's not totally mandatory. And as Leslie highlighted earlier, there is a team in the graduate school that can help with identifying supervisors should you choose to apply before you've managed to find somebody to act as a supervisor. So there's a bit of flexibility, but my personal view is to encourage you to search for a supervisor, and there are tools on the webpage. As I said in my presentation at the start, each of our disciplinary research schools have research pages with different researcher profiles in them. So there's opportunities to sort of look through the web pages and identify people and their contact details. And it just really shows that, you know, you've proactively reached out to somebody to discuss potential opportunities with them, and you've shown why you're directly interested in working with them on a research project. And that can only really be to your advantage when you make the formal application to be considered by the university.
And we, within the graduate school, as we said, we do have colleagues that can help with that, because perhaps your particular supervisor of choice isn't recruiting for whatever reason, but we would have the knowledge of other supervisors across the college who may be working in a similar area, or we could help with sort of picking what your idea is or your project. So that's why we really encourage you to reach the graduate school, because we can certainly help with that.
Great, thank you. We are coming to the end of the session today, and I think we've answered all of the questions in the chat. I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. We really appreciate your time and effort in joining the session, and to our presenters today as well, thank you very much. We do have other sessions on today within the university. So we have an accommodation live Q&A at 2 o'clock, and we also have an admissions live Q&A, and that one's at 3 o'clock. I'll post a link in the chat so people can access the sessions if they want to attend them as well. But if there's nothing else we can help with today, thank you so much for attending, and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. It's appreciated. Thank you to Danielle for your coordination, and Martha, thank you for coming and giving your view on your experience as a PhD student here, and for Leslie for talking about how the graduate school can support you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.